Welcome to commercialdrones.fm, the podcast that explores the commercial drone industry, the people who power it, and the concepts that drive it. I'm your host, Ian Smith.
Hey everyone, welcome to Commercial Drones FM. Today I've got Dan Held with me here in San Francisco. He is the co-founder of Hover, a mobile app for drone pilots on Google Play and the iOS App Store. Founded a company called Analytica, a mobile growth company, and also ZeroBlock, and has worked extensively in financial tech and is passionate about financial technology and drones. So welcome to the show, Dan.
Thanks, Ian. Glad to be here.
Very, very, very excellent to have you. So first of all, what's the deal with all this financial tech? Like, what is the background of Dan Held? How did you get into financial tech?
So I originally started at a small investment firm right out of college. I studied finance in college and then worked at a small investment firm in Dallas as an analyst. And they asked me if I'd like to be relocated to San Francisco, and it sounded pretty cool. I mean, not many people get outside of Texas. So
that makes two of us.
It's good to be out here. And that was about 4 years ago. So they relocated me out to San Francisco. And while I was out here, I got involved in the Bitcoin community. And yeah, I got involved in the Bitcoin community. And at the time, there's only 10 or 15 people there. This was before the price went crazy. This is before VCs invested in it. And we went to these meetups, and it was kind of like church.
What year was this?
This is January 2013.
Okay, church, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like going to church and you meet other people that believe what you believe in. And at the time, I mean, we were pretty nuts. I mean, no one thought Bitcoin was for reals. It's everyone thought it was a Ponzi scheme or a scam.
Yeah.
So it was pretty exciting. We started out with like 10, 12 people at this meetup. And then March 2013, the price spiked to $260 a Bitcoin. And then there was 100 people at the meetup. And there's VCs handing out their cards. And that was kind of the start of the really big Bitcoin movement in 2013.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, and while in the Bitcoin space, we're like, man, the price of Bitcoin keeps fluctuating. Like, it's really volatile. It would be nice if we could open up an app and check the live price of Bitcoin. And at the time, no app in the App Store had real-time market data. And the API calls are free. So
perfect storm.
Exactly. Yeah, we just took made these free API calls, made the price live, added a chart and a web view, and added a news feed, and that's how ZeroBlock was born.
That's awesome. Cool. So started in apps, and I guess I would love, of course, because the show's about drones. So how did you kind of get into drones? I mean, you co-founded Hover, which is a mobile app for drone pilots. Did you take some of that experience from being in financial tech and starting that first app into Hover?
Yeah, I think a lot. We learned a lot. I had the same co-founder, Kevin Johnson, with Hover. We were co-founders of Hover and ZeroBlock. And we learned a lot building ZeroBlock. We made a lot of mistakes, but from those mistakes, there's a lot of learnings. So in terms of marketing the product, building it, prioritizing different features. So we learned a lot from ZeroBlock, and we're able to kind of replicate that same success with Hover. For example, the news feed is very important as it increases engagement.
Mm-hmm.
There's always fresh content for the users to open up and check out.
In Hover.
In Hover, yeah, that's right. So that was a feature that we ported over, or at least was inspired by ZeroBlock.
Do you see any areas where, I mean, I'm just kind of drawing from the whole church thing, everyone is believing things like believing the same thing. And now, it kind of had this explosive growth. So going through that with Bitcoin, are we safe to say there's some similarities with the drone industry?
Yeah, I mean, it was super exciting 2014 and 2015, seeing the drone community come from, RC hobbyists and kind of explode into a mainstream, there's a drone underneath your Christmas tree sort of explosive growth. It was super exciting. It reminded me of the same growth in the Bitcoin space, and it was exciting to see the VCs and the companies come together and build really exciting, cool new products.
Nice. And so with Hover, I mean, it's a free app, right? You can just download it for free.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool. And so what does it do? What does it do for me? So if I'm listening to this podcast right now and I fly drones, or maybe I'm thinking about it, why would I want Hover?
Yeah, so, this was back in December 2013. I just bought a Phantom 2 Vision Plus. Mm-hmm. And I was taking it everywhere I could, the mountains in Colorado, go out to the beach and fly down the beach. And, people kept coming up to me and asking me, hey, are you allowed to fly that here? And we were saying, we don't really know. I mean, there wasn't an app at the time that told you where you could and couldn't fly. So we took an open source GitHub repo. So that's a common, an easier way of saying that is we found some open data.
Gotcha.
And then took that and built an app that had no-fly zone maps.
Okay.
Easy to interpret no-fly zone maps.
Gotcha.
So we were the first app in the Google Play and Apple App Store to have no-fly zone maps.
Okay. What's the workflow there? So you would, maybe be thinking about going somewhere, or you'd be at the place and...
Yeah. So, when we started Hover, the map view that we had, you were able to input a destination. So you could input like an address of where you were going. And then you could also check your current location. So using like the current location button, you could find no-fly zone data applicable to the region right around you.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was actually at the office today, pulled open the app, and I got to check the Giants schedule because there's a TFR that comes up at certain times for Giants games that extends across San Francisco. So it was nice to be able to see that. I mean, I didn't just see, hey, you can't fly here. I saw, hey, the Giants are playing the Padres or something. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, Hover is that nice, easy to use utility app. You can open it up, check out no-fly zones. We've got a nice drop-down indicator that has a checklist. It checks the weather, it checks no-fly zones, and gives you basically an easy thumbs up or thumbs down, or whether you should fly or not. So ready to fly, or hey, you should maybe exercise some caution. The wind speeds are kind of high, or hey, you're in a no-fly zone. You probably shouldn't fly around here.
Gotcha. And so, previously, back whenever there was the DJI Phantom 2 Vision Plus, there were no kind of geofencing capabilities built in. Recently, DJI released their Geo app. Are you familiar with that Geo service?
Yeah, they're working closely with AirMap to push that out. And I believe what it is it gives you the ability to request permission to fly in certain no-fly zones, such as like around airports.
Absolutely, yeah. Whenever you have permission, you're not supposed to use the app just to throw in your credit card and say, I'm clear to fly here now because I did this. I hope that's clear actually in the service.
I'm not sure if it is. I haven't used it yet.
Well, DJI, take note on that just in case. Okay, cool. So I think you had a cool kind of announcement as far as user growth has gone. I mean, people are using Hover. This isn't just an app just sitting there. What do you have to say about that?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, since we were the first app in the App Store with no-fly zone maps, we've had some really awesome organic growth. And we just recently surpassed our 100,000th user. So
that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, pretty exciting. I mean, around 1 in 5 U.S. pilots use Hover. U.S. UAV pilots, yeah.
That's great. And so what countries, I mean, actually, does this work outside the U.S. or is this more of a U.S. only?
Yeah, so we originally started with just U.S. maps, and then we partnered with AirMap, and they help provide us with international no-fly zone maps.
Excellent. Okay, cool. So you don't have to be in the U.S. to use it.
That's right. It works worldwide.
Perfect. When you look at like kind of user demographics, I mean, I'm assuming U.S. is leading the pack. Okay. He nodded his head, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, our user growth is predominantly from the US. We don't have the app translated in other languages, so I think that's probably a hindrance to more international growth. However, I'm not sure if any other products have been internationalized that well either. So
that's right. Actually, I think Skyward actually does a little bit of European stuff, okay. But I think they're doing this more as a service, and they have a slightly different business model. I was just talking to those folks the other day, but I think they've got some European stuff, which is it's nice to see because the U.S. is not the only country out there that people have to worry about busy airspace. So that's really cool. But going back a little bit more to the beginning, why did you create Hover? I mean, you have a drone, right? Or you have 2 drones.
Yeah, well, now I've got 2. I upgraded from the Phantom 2 Vision Plus. I didn't crash. That was a miracle. A lot of close calls. So that one survived long enough for me to sell it and then buy a P3 and an Inspire 1.
Excellent.
Not with the proceeds from that. I obviously had to spend a little bit more, but I love both of those.
Do you remember how much you were able to sell the used Phantom 2 Vision Plus for? I'm just curious, like resale value on drones. The technology is going so crazy fast.
Right. Yeah. I fortunately timed it. So the Inspire 1 came out before the Phantom 3.
That's right. Yeah.
I had purchased the Inspire 1, and so I sold the Phantom 2 Vision Plus, I think, for around $750, $800. And I think the Phantom 3 was announced like a couple months later.
Perfect timing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So if you time it right, you can still sell your drone right before the next one's announced. I don't even know that the typical announcement of DJI drones is actually, I think, typically been in like April or something. But anyways, don't hold me to that, people. Just try to make sure that you can, get a little bit of return on your drone if you're going to sell it.
I think Ian knows the secret Phantom 4 launch date. He's not telling us.
If Phantom 5,
Phantom,
right?
Yeah, Phantom 5.
Yeah. Sometime next year, I'm going to go ahead and guess. That's all I'm going to say. Well, awesome. So, but how did you get into drones though? Like, so what made you buy that first Phantom 2 Vision Plus, or what made you get that Inspire 1?
So my roommate bought a UDI. It's a UDI. It's a little, really flimsy, really hard to fly quadcopter that you can buy on Amazon for like $50. And
one of those indoor ones.
Yeah, it's got like kind of rubbery padding on it's got prop guards, so it can kind of bump into things, and it's basically invincible. I crashed it like 100 times. And so, if you can fly that, you can kind of fly anything. So I felt
good feature.
Yeah,
invincible.
Yeah, it's basically I gave it away afterwards.
Perfect. Did you sell it for a good ROI?
I gave it to a friend.
Okay. Perfect. It's still flying today.
Still flying today. It's somewhere. It's flying. Yeah. Yeah. So then the P2 Vision Plus was very attractive at the time because it had the camera integrated with the quadcopter, and all the other solutions at the time had like a GoPro. And I felt that experience was kind of clunky and having a gimbal that can carry a heavier GoPro is kind of tough. So the P2 Vision Plus is like that nice, easy to use package, all in one package that I was looking for.
Nice. Cool. Excellent.
Brought to you by DJI.
Yeah. They've sponsored the podcast. We're doing some clever viral marketing here. Not that anybody owns a DJI drone. Awesome. So we're going to switch gears here a little bit, talk about a little bit of recent news here. I don't know if you're aware, Dan, but 7-Eleven made a drone delivery in Reno. They actually partnered up with a company called Flirty, the delivery drone company. Did you know about that?
Yeah, I've heard of those guys. I think they delivered a Slurpee, right?
They delivered a Slurpee. Yeah, that's right. I don't know what else you would get from 7-Eleven, but so what was your first reaction upon hearing that? I mean, 7-Eleven doing deliveries. One of the headlines that I saw from a news company or on the blog was that they quote unquote beat Amazon to the punch. What do you think?
I think using that language is a little bit premature, but necessary. I'm a little bit jealous. I would kind of like a Slurpee right now. Pretty cool. Yeah, I think you're gonna see. So like. This is where I can draw parallels from my time in the Bitcoin space and drone space, where you had all these companies in the fintech space accepting Bitcoin as payment, right? Like Microsoft accepted Bitcoin as payment. You had like Namecheap and thousands of different merchants, and I think we're seeing the same thing happen with drones, where a drone delivery stunt won't be a stunt in a year. We'll have seen so many different drone deliveries that it's going to kind of wear off. So I think we're still in that kind of golden moment where you can take advantage of that free viral marketing, but I'm not sure if that's going to last too long.
Flirty and 7-Eleven beat Amazon to the marketing punch, rather.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously Amazon's been, working on this behind the scenes and pouring a lot of resources and time into it. So I'm sure that they've had plenty of undisclosed successful deliveries. Okay. Very cool. Well, glad to get your thoughts on that. In other news, 18-year-old CEO of a company called Teal, this guy named George Mattis is, I don't even know if he's still in high school, but he's barely old enough to be out of high school at typical graduation rates. But this guy, this young man, is CEO of a company making what they claim is the world's fastest production drone. It can reach speeds of up to 70 plus miles per hour, withstand winds of 40 miles per hour, do flips and rolls, and record 4K video that's electronically stabilized. It's even got its own app. I mean, did you hear about this young guy?
No, I haven't. That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, I think actually it was like Sally French, I think, did a story on the guy. I think she interviewed him, but yeah, pretty amazing. And he's a young entrepreneur. I mean, what kind of advice from Hover and well, you've predominantly done software, so this is hardware's hard.
I avoid hardware because it is hard. Yeah.
What kind of advice would you pass on to someone like George Mattis of Teal, who's starting up a drone company?
Man, it's kind of tough. Talking to my 18-year-old self. There's a lot I learned between then and now. I think some of it might be some advice I might pass on would be, focus on the product. Don't try to get a lot of marketing around the product until you found product market fit. Focus, when it's hardware, there's a lot of trust involved in terms of delivery. And if you miss that delivery window, you've kind of lost that trust.
They have a pre-order kind of sign-up deal going on the website. I checked it out.
Ooh. Yeah, it's not a good track record for deliveries.
It's not. Yeah, was it Lily, right?
Yeah.
Lily, there's actually a screenshot, two screenshots that I ran across recently. There was one taken back, I think it was about a year ago or so, in the team page of their website, and there was 30 plus people, and now it's down to 10 or something like that. I mean, roughly.
Ooh.
I mean, so yeah, I'm not really sure what's happening with the whole Lily movement and the team, but it's not looking too hot, and it's just it's a shame because you got to take all these risks into account, and people just really get behind these kind of companies. So
a DJI in the hand is better than a lily in the bush.
There you go. Tagline, headline for the next article, or actually that's just the title of the podcast.
That sounds good to me.
Podcast show. Gotcha. So yeah, they're going to be manufacturing the Teal in the U.S. So really hope that George can deliver on the promise there.
Yeah. I think he also needs to examine is his drone solving a problem that currently exists amongst pilots? Is speed an issue? I could see I've flown my drone and I've had my dad drive a car and I followed him in the car, and it's tough, with the top speed of the Phantom. I forget what it is, but I think it's between 35 and 45 miles an hour.
There's have you played around with the Phantom Forward ever?
No, I haven't, unfortunately.
They have a new sport mode, and it's actually pretty ridiculously fun. You flip it in sport mode, and the drone will actually kind of tilt more. It'll to go faster, and I guess increase the power to the motors, and it's shockingly fast.
Yeah, I remember, what I really love about the drone community is that there's a lot of engagement on the forums, with Phantom pilots and Inspire pilots. I modded my P2 Vision Plus controller based off of information I found.
What mod did you do?
It was just to boost the antenna gain.
Ah, there you go. Nice.
So it involved me drilling and cutting and, no soldering. So yeah, that was good.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, easier mod.
Yeah. But yeah, they talked about how you could increase the tilt on the rotors. If you tilted more, basically, and, not to where it becomes unstable, but you could manually tweak some of those settings, like the gain, I think, on the tilt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think the whole, like the flips and the rolls and everything, one of the things is, it doesn't have a gimbal, I don't think. So that's one of the Lily, I think, kind of features was that it was clever design, didn't need a gimbal, but
I think the Lily and the Parrot, right? The Parrot AR.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I have to admit, I was impressed. I tried it out at the Sacramento drone races last year.
Which one?
The Parrot AR.
The AR, the AR or the Bebop?
The Bebop, yeah.
The Bebop, the latest one.
I'm not as familiar with the Parrot lines. It was one of the first times I've ever tried a Parrot. And, I think the gold standard is DJI still, but it was still impressive to see that electronic stabilization with no mechanical gimbal.
That's true. Cool. Yeah. Some software and maybe a little bit of hardware in there that kind of keeps like OIS, optical image stabilization, like in cell phones, right?
Yeah, I think, like Instagram has the hyperlapse app where it stabilizes the footage, and I think it uses accelerometer data to do that. So I'm assuming the same process works for the electronic stabilization.
Clever stuff. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So also announced the UK government is teaming up with Amazon to test their delivery drones. So here we go. Amazon's getting its comeuppance back on 7-Eleven. And Amazon's paying for it. They're going to be doing some testing in the UK, doing stuff for beyond visual line of sight, collision avoidance, swarm technology, which is pretty cool. And they've got some 30-minute delivery claims that they will eventually adhere to. So I'm kind of teeing you up with a lot of this delivery stuff, and I'm not even done yet because I met your buddy Henry earlier today, who actually told me that you have some really cool thoughts on how a delivery network could work, and I think it also involved like cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin. So maybe you can expand on that a little bit. I think he said you guys had a conversation on it before.
Yeah, so my good buddy Henry, we first met at a drone meetup, at an AUVSI drone meetup in San Francisco, and we bonded over an idea that I had, and it's a blend between the Bitcoin space and drone space.
I love it.
So my thought is, even if Amazon does get very, very efficient and very, very fast at delivering packages, it's still optimal to co-locate your charging stations and storage facilities as close to demand as possible. So for instance, a drone taking off from a skyscraper and just going 50 feet down to the street is a lot, or 50 feet horizontally and like another 150 feet down. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot faster than an Amazon drone coming from a warehouse 15 miles away and going 100 miles an hour. And so the idea was drones are going to need gas stations. You're going to need wireless charging pads, and you're going to need these gas stations around dense urban areas. Mm-hmm. So my idea was, and so I used to work at a small investment firm that focused in commercial real estate. And in commercial real estate, rooftop leases aren't worth anything unless the roof is a very, very well located roof where you can put like antennas for cell service.
What do you mean rooftop leases? Like, what does that typically mean?
Well, so you can actually lease the roof.
Like me? Or you?
Well, cell service, cell providers do. So they put their antennas on certain roofs that are optimally configured in the city, whether that be height or it's facing a certain direction, and they'll put cell towers on top of those buildings. Now, the rest of rooftop leases aren't worth anything, just because there's nothing else to do with them.
So they're just sitting there empty is what you're saying?
They're sitting there empty. And what you could do is you could analyze which rooftops would be optimally placed in the city that aren't office, that aren't personal, and they're not retail. You'd want to go for industrial. Industrial spaces, it's, we're talking mechanic shops. They don't care if a drone falls through the window, or, they've got grease and all, 2,000 pound cars up on hoists. Industrial spaces are used to things being noisy and dangerous. And so what you'd want to do is you'd look at all the prime industrial rooftop real estate space and the top major urban areas.
Okay. And
then you'd go to the landlord and go, hey, I'll pay you money to lease your roof. And they're like, really? I mean, who wants to lease this roof? It's worthless. And you're like, well, here's my idea behind it. I'll pay you for 2 years, and I promise I won't put anything up there. But in a couple of years, I may start putting some installations for some drones, and it'll weigh this much, and you can expect this. And they're like, okay, well, I'll take money now, and then also in your lease contract. So, for instance, Walmart has 60-year leases. So what you could do is you could structure the lease to where you have renewal options that could go basically to infinity. So you could essentially buy up all of the prime gas station spots in the major urban areas. And then what you'd build on top of there is sort of like a box.
Battery charging stations.
Correct. Yeah. And so you could even have it in a separate system. It wouldn't even have to be connected to the electrical system of the building. What you could do is have like a hollow box. And on the roof, you have solar panels. And underneath, you have wireless charging pads with like QR codes. So the drones would go in, and this is where Bitcoin comes in. So in the future, when you have like really intelligent fleets of drones, as the owner of the fleet of drones, I'm just optimizing their algorithm. And they're sourcing, they're being distributed. So there'll be like an order book of, hey, there's a bunch of tourists who want selfies on Embarcadero, and the drone will be like, okay, well, I get paid $2 to do that, and to charge on one of Dan's gas stations that costs 50 cents, and so it'll simultaneously negotiate it and then take the spread.
Wow. So who would? So are you saying that I could own a drone and put it to work like that, or would it be a company or?
I think the future is it's kind of cool to think about having your drone go to work for you. And DJI products are pretty state of the art. Most of them can almost do that. But I think the future is very customized fleets for specific purposes. So you'd want heavy lifter drones for 20-pound packages, and you'd want like a little light drone that can carry like a prescription,
or just the camera drone for that selfie that's needed at the Embarcadero.
Yeah, it's really the UAV, the quadcopter combined with the payload, whether that payload be a camera or something that's picking up for you. And you basically own all the prime gas stations.
I love
the sky. Yeah.
That's amazing. So if I don't know where I was going with that. My mind is just going crazy now thinking about this. This is really cool. Oh, I was going to say about the network. So for the actual communication, do you envision is this LTE or something? I mean, it's just using like the cell towers that are already on the roofs. I mean, I would imagine if you're kind of doing this low altitude, then the connection's actually excellent.
Yeah, I mean, you could do a variety of different connections. Each landing pad could have a router. Or you could have, LTE would be preferred. That way the drone could establish a connection with the landing pad before it lands. I kind of just envisioned whatever communication protocol is standard at the time would be used.
How did the Bitcoin come in again? Did we expand on that part or?
Yeah. So what happens is that with AI and autonomous fleets, because I think we can both agree autonomous vehicles and autonomous UAVs are the future, right? I think companies like Ford, GM, and a bunch of these companies are focused. Apple, Tesla, they're all focused on building autonomous cars. Mm-hmm. And I think we're seeing that autonomous aircraft are actually much easier to build. There's a lot less stoplights in the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. No people walking around. You got a couple birds, but it's a little bit more spacious up there.
Oh, yeah.
So I see autonomous aircraft becoming popular very soon. And I think when they're autonomous like that, the owner of the fleet is merely optimizing the algorithm for efficiencies. Mm-hmm. And the drone will have to be given some sort of autonomy in terms of charging and negotiating for different services it provides. So essentially the drone could negotiate with the charging pad and go, hey, charging pad, I need a charge. And the charging pad's like, well, this is prime time. It's surging. We need you got to pay $1 to charge here. and then it could negotiate with other pads as well. Maybe there's another network. There's instead of Dan's charging pads, there's Ben's charging pads. And so it can negotiate with both and look at okay, well, but Ben's is 200 yards away and I would spend X amount of energy to go over there and maybe it's worth it.
maybe I'll run out of battery before and I'll fall down on something. I like this future that you're painting. How far is it?
Well, that's the tricky part, right? I think we can all agree that autonomous aircraft are coming soon, but what is soon? The Phantom 4 is impressive. With collision avoidance, that was really the final sensor that needed to be added. Now, granted, it's only a front-facing collision avoidance sensor, so you have some issues there.
Yeah.
However, I think we're very, very close, especially since DJI has an SDK and you've got developers building really, really cool, innovative things. The guys in Autopilot, have you ever heard of that app?
Yes, I have, yeah.
And it's pretty cool. So Jim McAndrew is the CEO of that company, and they have an app where you can, they're looking to script aerial cinematography. So you can build this really, really complex, smooth, awesome aerial shot of your really nice home in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And you can copy and paste that same flight path to a different location and then tweak it. So I think stuff like that is really cool. And that's kind of the bridge between our autonomous future and now when it's manual combined with the ability to automate some processes. So I think we're about 3 to 5 years out until we see fully autonomous drones.
That's awesome. Wow. Okay. I really like that. That's really cool. I'm digging the forward thinking and how much thought was put into that. I really do. Definitely respect that. So I'm excited for a future that does contain that. So what do you think, that's 3 to 5 years out. I mean, software is going to be a huge part of that. What do you think the role of software plays in the industry today right now with drones?
Yeah, I feel like software really unlocks the value in the hardware. And that's where DJI, I think, is well positioned to take advantage of that. They knew that maintaining a hardware advantage over time will be tough. Hardware will get commoditized. And it's really
not already.
Yeah, if not already.
Getting
I mean,
close.
Unique is they're pretty impressive. They're new, they've got, is it a hexacopter? Yeah, hexacopter with foldable landing gear.
Typhoon H or something, I think.
Yeah, 4K video, collision avoidance. Brought to you by Intel too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty nice. So I think DJI realized that, Frank Wang is a very cunning, smart guy. So I think he realized that early on, and I think I have an idea of what DJI is really doing.
Let's hear it.
They want to be the operating system for robotics.
Everything.
And they're crushing the first vertical is UAVs.
The vertical.
Yeah, it's like Amazon with books and electronics, and then they went horizontal.
Now they're doing
everything,
powering the entire internet, basically, and drones.
Yeah. And so I think they're going to crush the UAV vertical.
They're going to go to books. They're opposite of Amazon.
Autonomous books.
Insane. Wow. I like this insight that you're dropping. Are you planning on taking the Part 107 test to be a commercial operator of drones when it's released?
Totally.
Cool.
It's been fun flying recreationally, but it's nice to make a little bit of money on the side. And I really love flying drones. And if I can make money and do something I love at the same time, that sounds like a great deal.
No brainer. That is awesome, man. Well, this was really cool. So if you're interested, you can check out the Part 107 test prep that I released. I did an episode, I believe it's episode number 6. So I went over the 35 questions. But wow, Dan, thank you so much for joining the show. It's been really, really, actually legitimately mind-blowing to have you on. I'm really liking the depth that you put into that. You can go ahead and follow Dan Held on Twitter at bitonbit, BITONBIT, and you can check out Hover's Twitter at hoverapp.io, or go to the website hoverapp.io, and you can go ahead and get links to download it. It's free. It's on Google Play, on iOS. Dan, one quick last thought. Do you guys have any future plans for Hover before we go ahead and sign off?
Yeah, so, we spent quite a bit of time looking at Hover's roadmap, like what should we build next. And we've got a new premium tier that I think we're going to be launching the next couple months. And that
Nice.
premium tier has some really nice features that users have been asking for. And it comes at a very, very small price, but we see that being, it won't limit any functionality of the app currently. So everything that Hover has now is going to be free. This is like a whole nother awesome level above that.
Excellent. Cool. Well, stay tuned, everybody. Next couple of months, likely. We'll have to wait a few more years, unfortunately, to see this autonomous delivery drone network with drone gas stations on our rooftops. But that gives us all the opportunity to own an industrial building as well, and then lease it out to Dan and Hover. So thanks once again, Dan, for joining us on the show. I'm going to go ahead and sign us off here. Please follow us on Twitter if you like what you heard, @Drones Podcast, or on Facebook.com/Drones Podcast. We're going to be back soon. We're keeping the momentum here, and we'll have even more people as cool as Dan and dropping some of these awesome insights. So we're really looking forward to the future. Thank you so much for listening, and make sure you fly safe. Cheers.
Thanks for having me, Ian.